host, JT Taylor, and this is Dry Snitch. All right, guys, it's finally here. I've been talking about it for weeks. Everybody wants to know what I'm alluding to on Facebook. I got the prison bars up. I've got it saying Dry Snitch in the background, and everybody's like, what is this all about? People have been guessing different things. Some people want to know, is it an album release or whatever, or maybe I'm making an album? No. And I'm not announcing a new prison sentence, thank God. What it is simply a podcast, a video podcast. So it's going to start on YouTube, and hopefully it'll be available on more platforms in the coming weeks. So for about 3 or 4 years, it's been on my heart to share my experiences with others in hopes that maybe it will deter them from making some of the same mistakes I did, if you know what I mean. Basically, I wanted to turn my mistakes into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. And I figured a good way to do it is just to share it with people. I didn't know at first whether I wanted to talk about my addiction to drugs. I didn't know if I wanted to talk about my life in a gang, street life, stuff like that. The things I did to get to prison, or if I just wanted to talk about stories in prison. What happened to me? What was this? Did I see somebody get killed or shanked, or did I have to join a gang, or was I in a gang? And there's so many different things I could have done. So what I decided to do, I finally thought about it, and I decided I'm going to do everything, including my conversion to Jesus Christ. Everything's going to be included. Obviously not all in one podcast, although I can talk long, as some of you know that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pick one subject each time, and we'll just get into it. Okay. So I guess a lot of times when people meet me, they're very shocked to find out that I've been to prison before, but I have. In fact, I've been to prison more than once. Unfortunately, more than twice or 3 or 4 times. I've been to prison. I've been sentenced to prison 8 times. I did 7 prison sentences. One of them, I actually went there, and the day I got there, I dressed into my prison clothes, and then I dressed out and went home because I had already done enough time in the county jail that I didn't need to do any more time in prison, and then I went home from there. So it was definitely the shortest sentence that I ever had. But I guess the biggest question, the number one question that's asked, is usually, what was your first day like? Were you scared? What were you thinking about? What happened? What was the process and everything? And so since it's the first episode, I think that's what I'm going to start with. So now I'd like you to know that day one doesn't start off, you don't come in from the free world and go straight to prison. So I was in Cook County Jail, and I had been there for a few months already, and I got sentenced. And mine was a little bit discombobulated, as most things are in my life. So I got sentenced to a year of prison in Cook County, okay? However, I knew that I had a warrant in DuPage County, and that carried a sentence of anywhere between 2 and 5 years. So I knew I wasn't just doing a year. I knew that I had to do at least 3 years, because if I got the 2 and the 1, I could do anywhere from 3 to 6 years, basically. And so what happened is they shipped me down to Joliet, and then to my institution, and then back to Joliet, and then back to then to DuPage County. Then I got my time, then back to Joliet, and then back to the institution. But what I'm going to tell you about today, I guess, is I guess I'll tell you about two of the actual first days. So the first day that I actually got to Joliet was kind of like this. I'm in Cook County Jail. You do not know the day that you're going to prison. So you know once you've been sentenced, you're eligible to go the following day. But because of security reasons, they don't want you to know when you're going. It could be anywhere from, the next day to up to like a week or so, okay? And so at about 4 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden, they come and somebody comes to your cell, and they wake you up and they tell you, come on, pack it up, you're going. And so you can't really bring anything with you. I think that all that you could bring with you from the county is like 7 letters, up to 15 or 20 pictures. You can bring some write-outs. Now, what a write-out is a pre-stamped envelope, so that you can write your people. Once you get there, you tell them that, hey, I'm no longer in Cook County Jail. Don't come and visit. Don't come, don't send anything there, because I won't get it anymore. Right? It's never going to get to me anymore. And you can bring one book, and that book has to be a religious book. So if you're Christian, it could be a Bible. If you're Muslim, it can be the Holy Quran. Anything like that, you can bring with you. You can't even bring a fictional novel or anything like that, which would make life so much easier, but you can't bring it. So 4 o'clock in the morning, they come grab us, right? They bring us downstairs, and I'm telling you, they slam like 70 guys into a cell that's fit for like 15 or 20. Now, I'm not exaggerating. There's like 70 grown men, a lot of whom don't shower on a regular basis, okay? And there's guys who might have been like, say they might have been, came straight off the street, and as soon as they got to court, like the next day or two, they might have said, give me my time and I'm gone. And literally they've been there 3 or 4 days, and they're still going through DTs from alcohol, withdrawals from heroin, withdrawals from benzodiazepines. There's guys on the floor who are literally vomiting, just sweating. There's not too many, because most guys who have been there for, quite a while. And then, of course, you got those guys doing it, and then you got another group of guys who's just making it worse by making fun of the guys. And, maybe I would have been in that boat too, but since I've gone through the whole withdrawal thing, I'm not laughing at them. I'm feeling bad for them, and actually asking them if there's anything I can do, but there's not. There's really not. There's nothing you can do. So anyway, you're in this room. I have no idea why they bring you down there at 4 o'clock in the morning, because it's maybe 2 or 3 hours before you even see these 2 or 3 bus guards come in, in these suits that are like, their cuffs on their pants are tightened, and they got the vests on, the stab-proof and bulletproof vest on. They're just, they look like they're ready to go, and, basically every one of them looks like Sergeant Kick-Ass, and they got milk crates full of different kinds of like handcuffs, leg cuffs, and they start cuffing you. They cuff you, first of all, to another man. You don't get to pick who. They're going to call you by name, and you come up there, and they hook your right hand to this person's right hand. Now, think about that. If I'm on the left, I'm okay, because they're just handcuffing my right hand to his right hand. If he's on the right, he's got to put his right hand over his left hand, okay, to, be handcuffed to mine. The reason they do that is because obviously it's much harder to run. I do not know where they think you're running. First of all, you're inside of a maximum security county jail right now. Then, after they do that handcuffing part, they put ankle cuffs on you, okay? Shackles, leg shackles. And they go around your ankles. Now, they make them tight. There is no, ouch, these hurt or whatever. Shut up. Because they put them on and they do what they call double locking so that you can't accidentally, hit them and they get tighter. They won't do that. But they're tight enough. And they also only have, this much room. Like, I'm going to say 10 inches between, the two. So that even if you got short legs, which I do, you still got to take your gait is going to be really short, because if you step farther, one of them's going to dig into the front of your, say if it's your right foot forward, it's going to dig into the front of your right foot and the back of your left foot, your ankle, I should say. All right. So that happens, which makes you ain't running anywhere anyway. Then you get a belly chain that goes around your belly, and then there's a chain that gets tied, and then there's a chain that runs between your belly chain and your leg cuffs that's in between those. So now you're shackled like that, and then you're shackled to the other person. Then when everybody's shackled up, as you can imagine, it might take about an hour or so to get everybody shackled together. When everybody's shackled up, they put you on the bus, okay? Now, you look at it from the outside, and it looks like the old ones used to say Bluebird, and they looked like a school bus, and they were old and rickety, and that's exactly what they were when you got in. You just sat down. They were like a regular school bus, okay? But the new ones look like a nice, like a Greyhound. So, you're going to get on this nice cushy bus, and the doors open, and you walk on, and you look inside, and you look around, and you're like, what happened here? Well, they took out the whole inside of the bus, and they replaced it with a blue steel and hard plastic chair cage. So there's just basically a big old cage inside there, and your seats are made of hard molded plastic. Now, I know a lot of you ain't been to jail or been to prison, but a lot of you have at least had to sit in the back of the police car, even if it was to report an accident or something that you were in. And you know those seats that you sit in there that are like supposedly they're molded to your butt cheeks and supposed to be form-fitting? Yeah, that's what these are. And I think that whoever got the contract to make these had some fun at our expense, because these hurt. From the second you sit down in those seats, you're in pain. And it's not going to stop until you get to where you're going. And then they fill the whole bus up. The rest of the inmates come and they get on the bus too, and it's from front to back. It's probably like 2, sometimes 3 buses full of men. Now, you've got to go from there until it used to be Joliet. All right. Now, this was my first time down. Joliet was still open in the 90s. So that's where I was going. And it got kind of crazy from here. You think you get on the bus and, it drives there. When you get on the bus, they put one guard in the back of the bus. There's a little cage to one side where there's a guard sitting there with a shotgun, okay? In the front, and they cage us off from the front. There's the driver's seat, and there's a jump seat right next to, across the thing from kitty corner, right next to the door. And he sits in that. He's got his sidearm on, and the driver's got his sidearm on. They can't get those sidearms until we go to the gate at the front of the county, by the way. Nobody has a gun until we go up there. So we go up there, they get the guy in the back his shotgun, they both take their sidearms and they put them on. Okay, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to take a long time to get there because you're going all the way from 26 California all the way out to Joliet. Wrong. It might be a little bit before rush hour traffic, but there is a cop car in front of you. There's a cop car on the side of you. there's a cop car in back of you, and all of them are riding with their lights on and sirens blaring from the moment you take off out of the gates of Cook County Jail till the second you arrive at the gates of Joliet Prison. You are not stopping or even slowing down that bus for an instant. You got to remember who's on this bus. There's everybody from your shoplifters, to your people who are in there for multiple murders and are going to be doing life. They treat everybody the same. And that's not fun for the shoplifters, I'll tell you that much. But it's kind of I guess you could say it's kind of a cool experience to be going through all this stuff with them. You feel like you're special, like you're the president, but in exact opposite terms, you're special for a different reason. It's definitely not anything that you want to experience, because then it sinks in that, oh boy, they mean business. They mean business with you. You're not going to some kiddie camp like you've heard some of these guys who are in the government or whatever go to, and they got golf courses and all that. No, you're not going to one of those. No, sir. Not in the Illinois Department of Corrections. Not now, anyway. So they take you inside, okay? You get into Joliet, and it's, by the way, as soon as you get off the bus, they're yelling at you and talking to you like you're just a piece of crap. And for some reason, they're in Joliet, which is only half an hour away, but all of them got a country twang. And I'm not kidding you that there was an officer there, and his last name is Death Row. His last name is Death Row. Death Row was his last name. I'm not kidding you. He worked at Joliet, or maybe even he worked at Stateville. So as soon as you get off the bus, they're handing you a bag lunch. You're forgetting now that it's like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And they give you this bag lunch. And now is your first experience with prison food. So you open it up, and what it is, of course, the mandatory bologna sandwich. But the bologna is not the familiar bologna that you get from Oscar Mayer or from the deli. It's definitely not Boar's Head, okay, or Oscar Mayer. This is either gray or green colored meat. And a lot of times it's accompanied with little chunks of green and red chunks in it. I guess somebody said those were pimento, and they called it pimento loaf. But they call it Christmas meat in a joint because they were red and green, right? And it wasn't thin cut. It was thick. Usually you would like a lot of meat on your sandwich. Not when it's Christmas meat, not when it's green or gray. It's about 4, regular slices thick. And for some reason, they don't give you mustard. They give you ketchup. So strange. And then the bread that they give you is super dry and super hard already. And I'm not talking about hard on the inside and nice and soft on the inside, crunchy. No. This was hard, chewy, hard, like it'd been sitting out for days upon days after it expired. And what else is in there is a carton of milk. It's pink in color, and it says on it, reconstituted skim milk. Well, I found out what that meant was that it was basically powdered milk. Reconstituted means it had been turned into skim milk. Then they turned it from skim milk back into milk by adding water to the powdered milk and simply shaking it up. Whatever you want to call it, it was reconstituted nasty. That's what it was. It was disgusting. Okay? So you then, and they're bugging you. As soon as they hand the front guy the sandwich, right, and they start handing them out, by the time they get to the back of the room, that same guy comes along, doesn't stop, just brings, now it's an empty bucket that he's got, and he's coming along and picking up the bags from your garbage. I'm trying to think what else was in there. Probably an apple or something like that was in there with the sandwich. And that was about the best food you got, was the apple. So after this, they now it's interesting time. You go and you get butt naked, and they put you on the butt naked wall. Any man who goes through this knows what humiliation is after you do this. So they get you on the wall. They take about 10 guys at a time, all you lined up, and they tell you exactly which piece of clothing to take off at a time. Like when they tell you to like take off your underwear, they tell you don't shake it out, don't pop it, don't do anything like that. And there's reasons for that. You know, there's guys in there who, like I said, aren't exactly, really good with keeping up hygiene, So, it's starting to stink already. And then when they tell you to pull off the socks and don't pop the socks, by the way, if you pop the sock, there's a chance you're going to get slapped by one of the guards, okay? And it's starting now. It's starting to really, really reek in there. It's full on funk fest. All right? So now you're on the wall. Now you finally get butt naked. And now they're coming up to you one by one. They want to look behind your ears. They want you to look up. They want to look up your nose. They want to look inside your mouth, under your tongue, behind your ears. Even if you got short hair like I do, they want to look behind your ears for some reason. Like you're Chris Angel and you can pull out a rabbit behind there or something. I don't know. Lift up your sack. And then the humiliating part is turn around and bend over, pull your butt cheeks apart, and on the count of 3, they want you to cough. Now, by the way, when you do this and you turn around and you bend over and you got your cheeks spread, they go into this, long drawn out thing saying, now everybody better cough. If I hear you didn't cough, I'm coming over to you and I'm going to make you do it by yourself in front of everybody, by yourself, where everybody's looking up your crack and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, you want to die. It smells so bad in there. You can take for granted that one of the 2 guys right next to you has not made a friend with a washcloth and a bar of soap in months. Okay, so it's bad. All right, so you do what they say, and then they throw you this little cup of stuff, and they tell you to pour some on your head and mix it in, and some on your hair, on your testicles, and rub it all in on your nether regions down there. And obviously it's for lice or whatever you might have on you. And you put it on and you just do what they say. You do it. And then you stand there, still butt naked, still smelling everybody. And then they'll finally say, okay, go ahead and get in the shower. You get in the shower, and these showers are, a round pole, and they got like 6 shower heads coming out of them. And you're with 5 other men on that shower pole and get in the water. And guaranteed it's either going to be one of 2 things: scalding hot or ice cold. I'd rather have it ice cold, to tell you the truth, because scalding hot will actually leave welts and stuff on your skin, but it's going to be one of the 2, and it's bad. You don't take a real good shower, okay? And by the way, it's going to be a while before you get a good shower, because they come around to your cell once a week and give you a shower when you get to your cells. See, this is a place where you're going to be doing what's called intake, or reception, or classification. You're not going to stay at this institution. You're only here until they can classify you, whether you're going to a minimum, a medium, a maximum. They actually have medium maximums. Whether you go into one of those or whether you go into Supermax. I don't think many people go to Supermax from there. I think Supermax is after you have messed up at a max. But anyway, you know, now you got that part done. And now you get in this like long assembly line, I guess you could call it, okay? And I might not have the order right, but the first thing you do is you go to what's called BFI. That's a Bureau of Information or something like that. It's not FBI, it's BFI. Or it's B of I, I'm sorry, Bureau of Identification. So they take your picture, then you go over and you take fingerprints. And don't ask me why. There's people taking their picture for the ID, smiling like they're, you know, happy to be there, you know. And then there's people mean mugging them like they're going to do something to them, you know. I just kind of stood there and just, you know, took my picture. I'm just trying to, you know, see what's going on around me and feel it out. And then you go and take your fingerprints, okay? Then you get in another line. And now everybody's got to go and they got to see a psychologist, a psychiatrist. They're going to ask you, have you ever been suicidal? Have you ever tried to kill yourself? Are you suicidal now? Do you feel you have anything to live for? Do your friends and family support you? All these kind of questions are going to ask you just to make sure that while you're in their custody, they don't have to fill out a bunch of paperwork saying that, you know, oh, he wanted to kill himself, we knew it or whatever. No, they're gonna take precautions. So they're gonna ask you that, and then once you've done that, they will literally write on you, just like they do at Cook County Jail, like you're a farm animal. They will take a black Sharpie and like write P on your hand. It means you've seen psychiatrists. So then you go to get your blood drawn. So you go to a nurse. Bam, they hit you real quick with a syringe. And man, I've got deep veins. They're hard to find, my veins. It takes them no time. They put the tourniquet on. They go like that. They wipe some alcohol. Bam, they draw it, fill up their 2 tubes, and I'm on my way. These ladies don't miss. They're doing it probably, you know, 1,000 times or more a week, right? So after you're done with that, you go to, talk to the people who run the drug program. If you've got an addiction, they'll ask you if you want some help for it, because there are a couple institutions that are just for people who want to go, you know, to get recovery help, which is a great way. If you're in there, you might as well, you know, put your time towards doing something to better yourself, you know. But the thing is, there's only like one institution out of, you know, dozens of institutions that has that available. They have drug programs at other institutions, but I'm talking about there's one that's just set aside just for that. Actually, I think there's 2 now. I think there's Sheridan and then there's Southwestern, okay? And they'll ask you, I remember the first time they asked me, I said, yeah, I'd like to get some help. And they're like, okay, well, you're going to go there then. So I thought for sure that's where I'm going, and I'm on the waiting list, and they come and no, I didn't end up going there at all. I don't know what happened, but I didn't go there. So after you see them, then you go and talk to the regular doctor, or the regular nurses, I should say. Tell them any medications, anything like that you're on. They actually have you fill out this form to talk about how much money you have. How much do you have in savings? How much do you have in checking? Do you have any properties that you own? How much cash do you have available? Because if you say that you happen to be worth so much money, they're going to charge you rent for being there. And that's no joke. If you have a certain amount of money on your books, I've heard of people having enough money on their books. I think it's something like $10,000 in your commissary account. And they start charging you like $200 a week or a month or something for rent. Yeah, they ask you all kinds of questions, and And the smart thing, just, I ain't got nothing. I don't got nothing, you know? So after you're done with all those questions, you'll go back, you'll sit down, and you'll wait. Now, I know everybody, you know, always asks me, were you scared? You know, was there fights and stuff? And it's like this, like, yeah, I was scared. Yeah, I was scared. Now, it wasn't the typical fear, I don't think, that most people would think of. Like, I wasn't scared of, like, getting jumped or being confronted by a gang or anything like that. I had done plenty of time inside of county jails, including Cook County, which was, you know, the majority of the people here are from Cook County. And Cook County is it's a hellhole. I know if you haven't been there, and I know you hear stories of it, the thing is that you don't hear the stuff that goes on there on the news every day. I mean, you can ask my wife. When I was in there and she was looking stuff up, she was hearing the stuff that she's like, man, I just heard that 2 guys got stabbed yesterday, and like, it doesn't make the news, like, on, you know, the top story. You know, they might say a little blip, or it might be on page 63 of the Tribune in one little corner or something. Like, they don't want to advertise that there's people being rolled out of there in body bags on a regular basis, or stretchers on a daily basis. In Cook County, I remember one time they said Cook County Jail is in the top 10 list of the deadliest institutions in America. Period. I'm not just talking about jails. Institutions, period. That's jails, prisons, you know, any place you could think of. Cook County was one of the worst in the entire United States. So I knew and people who had been to prison already from there, had told me what prison was going to be like. So I wasn't really scared of, like, you know, of that aspect of it. I know how to carry myself by then. I knew it was going to be different, but you're always scared a little bit of the unknown. You know, well, maybe it's changed since they've been down. You know, maybe because you know, I'm white, so in there I'm by far the minority. I'm gonna say that it's easily less than 10%. And my mouth's all red. Sorry, it's easily less than 10% Caucasians in the penitentiary. By far, it's more blacks, and then Latinos, Mexicans. Just, you know, it's by far. I'm a minority going in there. As far as and then I guess you get to your cell around 4 or 5, you know, that evening. Now, I'm not sure if it's the adrenaline or because you've been, you know, standing in line all day, and standing up and sitting down, and for some reason, and I learned later that walking on concrete actually has a chemical reaction with your body, and it pulls energy out of your body. So you're tired. And besides that, you got woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning out of a dead sleep. You didn't know it. You weren't prepared, you know, and I guess there's a lot of adrenaline because you don't, you know, the fear and the not knowing what's going on. So you're glad to get to that cell. And the thing is, though, you're going to be put in a cell with somebody who's already been in there for either a day, or he could have been there for months, because there's people who sit in there for 2 months sometimes before they get moved, you know? So, and you don't know what to expect, man. I've got put in some cells with some guys who are just really smooth. You know, you come in and they say, hey, look, go ahead, get yourself situated. You know, this is my name. They shake your hand. You know, they'll give you a hand making your bunk up, because obviously if you come in last, you're going to be on the top bunk. Some people like to be on the top, so you might be on the bottom, but generally you're going to be on the top. And, you know, you just want a little bit of time to just kind of chill. In fact, what you want to do is take a nap, you know, because you're exhausted. it takes a lot out of you. It's not just physical, it's mental and emotional too, obviously. All right. That was my great. I'm getting a phone call as I'm on recording, but that was my experience going to Joliet. So that was my first day in the receiving part. Okay, so I want to tell you now about my first day in the actual prison that I went to. So what happens is when you're in Joliet, and Joliet's all bars. You've seen it, kind of like, see these bars behind me. You're behind those, okay, and you're in I'd say it's probably more like a 7 by 9 cell, but you're with another person on bunk beds. The toilet is right next to your bed. Literally, if somebody's got to use it, they're taking a dump right by where somebody's head is. So obviously you tell them what you got to do. They got to turn around the other way. It's terrible if you think about it. In the middle of the night, if you got to go, like, what do you do? It's not a good place, people. So you're there, and after about, I think it was about 10 days, my first time, what they do is they come by at like 3 or 4 in the morning and they drop if you're leaving the next day, you're going to your parent institution where you're going to stay, they're going to drop a brown paper bag, like a grocery bag, in front of your door, and it's going to say a number on it. Like it might say K25, okay? It's going to say K for everybody for some reason. 25 will be a number for a certain penitentiary. Now, because guys in there know, them so well and they've been down so many times, somebody's got a list and it makes its way around the whole place. You're going to have a list in your cell of which number means what. And the one they told me I was going to was Vandalia. That's the one everybody told me you don't want to go to. And there's a reason why. Vandalia, it's a minimum institution, okay? However, believe it or not, Vandalia was the first capital of Illinois. So there's some trivia for you. You get there, and these people are country. Look, they're so country down there, the women chew tobacco. Okay, the women chew tobacco and spit on the ground, talk to you like this. They do not like you if you're black. They don't like you if you're brown. And they don't like you if you're from up north. So if you're from Chicago, nah. You're in the same category as a black or a brown man, all right? As soon as you get off the bus, there's a captain telling you, listen here, this is my camp, and I'm letting you know now that there's no gangs down here. We've talked to every one of your chiefs. You're not on countdown at this camp. This camp is run by us. Blah, blah, blah. He's saying everything to you, and he meant every word of what he's saying. All right? But the reason you don't want to go to Vandalia, most people might think this is a good thing, but it's dorms instead of cells. So every dorm had 48 bunk beds, which means there's 96 men to one dorm. In a dorm, you can't buy a TV. That means you've got 2 TVs, one on each side of the dorm, 1 TV per 48 men, and another TV for another 48. And guess what? If there's NASCAR, if there's bull riding, if there's rodeo stuff going on, that's what's going to be on your TV. All right? So, yeah, that's how... they controlled the TV. If you wanted to ask them to turn it, you had to ask them. The only time they would turn it for you for something you liked is if football came on. So that was a good thing. But you can't buy a TV. You can't buy a radio unless it's like a Walkman. There's a lot of things. That's how your time goes by fast. Is just watching TV or you get out and do certain things, and you got no privacy. That means that every time you wanted to use the washroom, they were in back, and then there was a wall that was about 3 feet high. So, and then behind that wall, there was like 3 toilets on each side. They had one side over here, one side, and there was a wall in front of the toilets, and then there was a little partition in the middle to let you walk into those, okay? And then in the back of those was where the showers were. So you had to walk through the toilet to get to the shower. It's a nasty place. They had huge flies down there that would bite you. These flies were big. They looked like they had been shot up with steroids. They were so big that they would carry 2 or 3 more flies on their back. You know what I'm saying? Like, these were some big flies. They were big flies, okay? If they bit you, you knew they bit you. They didn't look like a mosquito bite. They looked like man, they were bad bites. When they bit you, they didn't hurt the bite itself, but they'd be big old welts on you, okay? And they had brown recluse spiders. If a brown recluse spider bites you, there's some kind of little venom in his spit or whatever that gets into your skin where he bites you, and it eats your flesh like Ebola. If you don't treat one, you could be walking around with like a 6-inch hole in your arm. I'm not kidding you. That's how bad they can get. So if you got anything that looks remotely like a bite, you know, you want to do something about it right away. Yeah, it was just a terrible place to be. Like, you don't want to go down there if you had a lot of time to do it. Luckily, I didn't have a lot of time to do it. Now, like I told you, I had that warrant out for me, right? And in Joliet, they came around. They asked anybody got a warrant? Because you don't want to go to your parent institution. Then they find your warrant. Then they got to bring you back to Joliet. Then you got to go back to that county. Then back to Joliet. Then back to your parent institution. I told them 3 times, yes, I got a warrant, got a warrant, got a warrant. All 3 times. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. I almost started thinking maybe they threw it out. If that's the case, hey, I'm happy. Wouldn't you know, I get down to the parent institution. The next day after you get there, they put you there even in a receiving deck for a few days or whatever. The next day they have you go to medical and start getting your physicals and stuff done. And somebody came over and said, Taylor, K673, you know, called out my name. I said, yeah. And he said, no, not you. He thought I was playing with him. He's like, Taylor. He made a racist remark saying that my last name had to be a black man. And no, that's me. He said, okay, well, come with me. And I said, what's going on? He said, man, they just found out about that other 7-Eleven you robbed. They go, what? I never robbed no 7-Eleven. Other 7-Eleven? What are you talking about? Oh, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, man, don't. And like, he's like, no, you got a warrant. I don't know what it's for. I'm like, great. I've told him I had a warrant the whole time. Now, if you're in a minimum, and Vandalia was a minimum security prison, you can't be out in population if you have a warrant, because your warrant might get you more time than can be at a minimum institution level. So they put me directly into segregation, where I stayed for 14 days. 9 of those days, it reached 100. There's no air conditioning there. You're in cinder block cells. In Seg, you're in cells. Cinder block cells with these bars like this. And they take all your clothes and give you this real thick jumpsuit. So the only thing you can do really is take down the top and roll up the legs, you know, and make it into like a little, I don't know what you call it, man, like a little short jumpsuit, whatever. But it's hot, real hot. Really, really hot. The walls with the paint are sweating all day and night. And they hold heat real well to where even if it gets like to 80 when the sun goes down or whatever, the walls are still baking at over 100 degrees. Yeah, you burn up in there. And I was in there for 14 days. Then they sent me back to Joliet. I stayed there maybe 2 or 3 days before they took me, just for the afternoon, they took me over to DuPage. DuPage County gave me another 2 years, which was the minimum. So I was kind of happy, but now I got 2 and a 1. Now I got 3 years to do. And by the way, how the time goes in Illinois, unless it's a violent or sexual case, which I've never had, you do half the time. So in 3 years, you cut it in half, and you only got to do a year and a half. Now, they used to always give you 6 months extra good time. So now it's down to a year. And then you can earn good time. If you can only earn good time one time, and it's got to be your first or second trip to the penitentiary. So, the good thing about being in Vandalia, I get back down to Vandalia, and I'm still in the pod that is reception. They finally put me in a regular pod. Now I can go to yard and everything like that. I'm going to go see what yard's about, get outside, and, let's see what prison's actually like. First day I go out on the yard. I get out there, and I see in the middle of the yard they had this, they had a bathroom. It was just cinder blocks, that were about 6 feet high, walls, and then on the inside they had, some urinals and then a couple sit-down toilets or whatever. My first day, after about a half an hour, I had to go to the washroom. I ran over there. Oh, and you could go get water over there too. So I went to get some water or use a washroom, one of the two. And they, everybody's telling me, no, get out of here. Man, we got business going on. There was a bunch of Latino guys telling me, man, we got business. Beat it. And they tell me, like, get out of here, no uncertain terms. So I'm not trying to, you at the same time, you want to have your bravado. Man, don't tell me what to do. But when there's 8 or 9 of them and they're being like, just hey, get out of here to everybody, you leave. I'm finding out what's going on. I'm not going to say what gang they were, but they were violating one of their own for shooting one of their own. How they decided to violate them was probably without a doubt, the most horrific thing I've ever heard of. If you know what weights are, for exercise, if you know what a 45-pound plate is, that's what you slide on the end of one of the bars for bench press, okay? And it weighs 45 pounds. It's a big old metal plate. And so what they did is they had this guy lay his head sideways on the toilet. And by the way, they didn't clean it or nothing. This has got piss and crap and stuff all over the toilet. And somebody got up on the top, stood on the back of it, and took that 45-pound plate and dropped it on this boy's head. That was my first day on the yard. That was my first day really on the yard in prison, period. And when I heard that, my life just seemed to like spiral. Like my whole thinking about how I was going to do this time and how I'm going to make the best of it just kind of went into, okay, you're in survival mode now. This is not for kids. This is no place you want to be. So if anybody's watching this and thinking they're cool and they're hanging around their homies, and even if they do, they're going to get a little bit of time and go to a minimum joint. This happened at a minimum joint, okay? This guy, last I had heard, I never followed back up on it because anytime I thought about it, I think I seriously had some PTSD from hearing it. You heard it, okay? And then you heard this howl and then them stuffing like his face with something so he couldn't make any more noises. And it makes me shudder, And last I heard, he was still alive, but he had a lot of brain damage, and they weren't sure if he was going to continue to live, or not. It just wasn't a good thing. It was a traumatic thing to experience. That's my first day in prison. My real first day. And I'm glad to say that, although there's a lot more stories that I'm going to go into later, and I'm going to tell you guys some positive things as well, that's for sure. This is a journey that I went on. This journey of my life, took place all the way from like the age of 20, 25, all the way until like, into my 40s. All my adult life pretty much has been spent dealing with that kind of stuff. And thank God I'm not on that same road or that same path anymore. And there shouldn't be any more, going back or anything like that. But it's still a daily struggle, So the last thing I want to do before I close out is, a lot of you guys are asking, what is dry snitch anyway? So the term dry snitch is definitely a prison term or a jailhouse term. A dry snitch is somebody who's a snitch without actually. If you tell the police, if you make the police aware of something without actually telling them directly, you're a dry snitch. I'll put it in terms of the world, though, not in prison. So you see your boss is only like 10, 20 feet away, and maybe you don't like this guy, and he just came in from lunch, and he was supposed to be back from lunch 20 minutes ago, but he's real late. You see the boss over there, you might say real loud, "Hey, Bob, nice long lunch, huh? Had a long lunch?" And the boss just heard you just snitched. Without actually telling the boss, you told the boss. That's a form of dry snitching. So, I named it that one so that when anybody saw that term, they know where that term comes from. So immediately would come in. Then some wouldn't know what it meant. And so now I'm telling you. And then in some ways, I'm going to be doing some dry snitching. I'm not going to tell and give anybody's name or give anything away here, but I'm going to tell you some stories, and I'm going to tell you some butt naked honest truths about some stuff. And I'm going to, tell you what goes on in the streets, what happens in drug deals, what happens when you're going through withdrawals. I'm going to tell it all. I'm going to snitch. I'm going to let you know how it is, so that hopefully, they say that a wise man can learn. A smart man can learn from his own mistakes, but a real wise man can learn from somebody else's. I'm hoping that you can learn from mine, and that, as I said, I can turn my mistakes into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Tune back in if you wanna take this journey with me. I hope that you will now go and subscribe to this channel. You might be the first subscriber, who knows? And press the like button if you like. If there's something you want to hear, please put it in the comments. If there's something you don't want to hear so much about, put it in the comments. At first, when there's not too many people subscribed or whatever, if you have a question, I'll answer you directly as fast as I can and as detailed as I can. If anybody wants to hear about something, that they don't know if I'm going to get into, put in the comments, and I'll try to get to it. If anybody's out there struggling right now with an addiction to anything, and they need some help, and they don't have money, they don't have insurance, they don't have whatever, please get into my comments and let me see if I can help you. Because the biggest step is saying that you got a problem, and to be able to take that first step and not have any way to do it, it is a hard thing, because I've been through there, and now I know some ways. So hopefully we get into that, and hopefully I can help some people, and hopefully, like I said, I hope to educate you, inform you, and entertain you. So thanks for watching, and please come back. Peace.